They told you love was a gift, told you that loyalty was noble, told you that caring made you human. They lied. What they really meant was submit. Smile when you're bleeding. Apologize when you're the one who was betrayed. Care, even when it kills you. And you did. You gave and gave until your hands were raw. Until your voice trembled from always saying yes. Until your soul forgot what silence felt like. You bent so they could stand taller. You broke so they could breathe easier. You called it love. They called it leverage. Because the truth is they never loved you. They loved your weakness. They loved your guilt. They loved how easy it was to keep you chained. With smiles, with praise, with just enough kindness to keep you hoping. But now you've stopped caring. And when you did, something cracked. No, not you, them. Their faces twisted, their voices shook. Because suddenly, the puppet cut its own strings. The servant walked away from the throne. The sacrifice said, no more. They told you that without them, you'd be nothing. They told you caring was your only strength. But the moment you stopped chasing their approval, you became something. They feared free and freedom. It doesn't wear chains. It doesn't beg for crumbs. It doesn't bow to comfort dressed as control. You were never weak. You were conditioned to believe that silence was peace. That pain was patience. That pleasing them meant purpose. But now, you see it for what it was. A cage lined in velvet. A leash painted gold. A noose whispered with words like family, friendship, love. You ripped it off and they called you cruel. Let them mourn the version of you who bled for their comfort. Let them curse your name as they watch you rise. Because the one thing they never taught you is how dangerous you'd become when you stopped caring. They always told me to speak, to explain, to soften the blow of my truth so their lies could sleep soundly. So I talked. I justified. I made my pain sound pretty, so they wouldn't feel guilty for causing it. But one day, I stopped. No more answers. No more defenses. No more carefully crafted sentences to make others comfortable with my discomfort. And that's when the silence came. But silence isn't peace. No. At first, silence is violent. It screams louder than any voice ever could. It echoes. It taunts. It digs its claws into your thoughts and drags your demons to the surface. Because when you stop explaining yourself, you start hearing what was always there. The truth. Raw. Unforgiving. And the world, it doesn't like your silence. It fears it. Because silence means they can't control the narrative. They can't twist your words into weapons. They can't guilt you back into submission. They ask, why are you so quiet? But what they really mean is, why aren't you making me feel better about hurting you? Let me tell you something. Silence is not weakness. It's war. It's the calm before the storm they thought would never come. It's the stillness that terrifies them because it means you've stopped begging, stopped needing, stopped caring. In silence, you hear every footstep that walked away, every laugh that stabbed you in the back, every word they never said when you needed them most. And then you start hearing something else, your real voice, not the one trained to be polite, not the one that trembled through tears, but the one buried beneath years of noise, sharp, unbothered, unshakable. So no, I don't care if they miss the old me. I don't care if my silence makes them squirm. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them drown in the noise of their own guilt. Because I'm done filling the silence for people who never listened. Now, my silence roars louder than their approval ever did. And they will hear it every time they try to forget what they did. Every time they look for the version of me who used to explain his pain. He's gone. And this silence, this is the sound of my freedom. They called it love, but it was convenience. They called it loyalty, but it was control. And I believed them. I gave and I gave, bleeding into their hands. While they smiled behind painted faces, they wore masks so well, I mistook them for truth, for care, for kin. But when I stopped begging, when I stopped shrinking, when I stopped caring, the masks began to crack. The same smiles that once comforted me twitched. The eyes that once looked kind flickered. And the voices that used to praise me turned quiet. You want to know who truly loves you? Ignore them. Stop performing. Withdraw your energy and watch what survives the silence, because silence exposes cowards. It peels the skin off their pretty lies. It shows you who needed your light just to hide their own shadows. And suddenly, you see them for what they really are: addicts. Addicted to your pain. Addicted to your compliance. Addicted to the weaker version of you. The moment you stop caring, you become dangerous. Because now they can't mold you. They can't guilt you. They can't break you. You were the mirror that made them feel powerful. But now they can't even look at you. Because you reflect everything they fear: self-worth, independence. Fire. Let them flinch. Let them twitch. Let them tremble beneath the weight of your silence. Because when their masks crack, it's not just paint that peels. It's power. It's leverage. It's the illusion that they ever had you under control. So, wear their betrayal like armor. Let their discomfort be your proof. You never lost them. You lost the illusion of them. And that is freedom. Let them whisper. Let them wonder. Let them lie. Just don't go back. Don't explain. Don't soften. Let the masks fall. Let the truth scream. Let the world see you uncaring, unshaken, unleashed. Because this version of you, the one who no longer needs their approval, this is the version they feared you'd become. And you did. You became it. You became you. The weight lifts, but so does the fog. I thought I'd feel free. I thought walking away would taste like air, like light, like wings. But no one tells you the truth. Freedom doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with silence. It comes with cold. It comes with a kind of emptiness that echoes louder than any scream. Because when the weight lifts, so does the fog. And suddenly, you see everything. You see who used you. Who clapped when you broke. Who fed you compliments just to chain you in place. It's not the falling out that hurts. It's the clarity that comes after. You look around expecting cheers and find nothing but shadows you mistook for people. You thought they stood beside you. They were just waiting for you to fall. So yes, the weight is gone. But now, you carry the truth. And that truth is heavier than any chain they wrapped around your neck. You realize how much of your life was built on lies. How many of your smiles were masks? How often you bled to make others feel whole. And now that you've stopped bleeding, they've disappeared. That's the part they never warned you about. The silence that follows strength. The isolation that follows healing. They told you letting go would set you free. But they never said you'd have to walk alone. You will. You will walk alone. And your feet will shake. Your hands will tremble. Because there's no one left to lean on, just the storm inside you. But listen to me. That storm, that's not fear. That's your power waking up. That's the sound of everything they tried to kill. Learning how to breathe again. You're not broken. You're clearing. You're not lost. You're unbecoming what never belonged. And yes, it's quiet here. But in that quiet, you'll find something louder than applause. Something truer than love. You'll find yourself. No leash. No master. No mask. Just you and the fire they tried to drown. So let the fog rise. Let it choke out every illusion. Because now, you finally see. They stabbed and smiled. Said it was a misunderstanding. Said it was love. But I remember every silence. Every time I gave and they disappeared. Every promise twisted. Every touch tainted. They didn't break me in one strike. They carved me slowly, quietly, with fake kindness and sharpened lies. But here's the truth they'll never speak. It wasn't the betrayal that hurt. It was how easy it was for them. How they slept after setting fire to everything. I used to shake. I used to bleed in silence, hoping they'd notice. Hoping the ones who shattered me might care enough to pick up the pieces. But I've stopped hoping. And that's where everything changed. You see, now they betray me and I blink. Nothing more. They reach for the same knives. But I no longer bleed. Their betrayal is just wind now, loud, pointless, forgotten the second it passes. because I've outgrown the ache, outgrown the illusion. I've met the monster inside me, and I made peace with it. Now I don't beg. I don't explain. I don't even look back. You want to leave? Go. You want to lie? Lie. You want to betray? Do it loud. Let the whole world hear you burn the bridge, because I'm not walking back across it. Not for you. Not for anyone. Betrayal no longer breaks me, because the last time they stabbed me, I didn't die. I woke up colder, wiser, dead to their approval, alive to my power. I wear my scars like armor now. Not shame, not pain, just proof. Proof that I survived everything they hoped would end me. So let them try again. Let them play their games. Let them whisper behind doors they're no longer welcome through. I am no longer soft for traitors. I am no longer kind to cowards. I see through them now, and worse for them, I simply don't care, because when the fire doesn't burn you anymore, you become the flame. Peace isn't kind. It doesn't cradle you. It doesn't whisper lullabies and wrap you in warm blankets of forgiveness. No. Peace is cold. It comes after the war has gutted you, after the battles have turned your heart into stone and your soul into smoke. It arrives not like a friend, but like a silence that dares you to breathe again. They lied when they said peace would heal me. They meant quiet. They meant stillness. But peace? Real peace? It's not soft. It's not beautiful. It's the moment you realize no one is coming, and you're still standing. Peace is the echo in your chest after the rage is gone. It's what's left when the screaming stops and all the voices you tried to say fall quiet. They begged for calm while they lit matches in your name. They wanted you peaceful so they could win, so they could watch you fold, bend, break, and bleed, all while they held your silence like a trophy. But peace, true peace, doesn't ask for surrender. It doesn't care if you smile again. It only demands that you stop answering to pain. I stopped answering. I stopped rushing to fix what others shattered. I stopped running back to broken doors hoping for unlocked hearts. And when I stopped, peace didn't greet me with light. It met me in the cold. The kind of cold that makes you honest. The kind of cold that strips you bare and shows you who you really are, without the noise, without the need, without the hope. That's where I found it. Not in their forgiveness, not in closure, not in understanding, but in the silence after I stopped caring. Peace isn't a sunrise, it's the ashes after everything burned. It's the frost that grows over the graves of every version of you that begged to be enough. I don't smile at peace. I nod. I understand it. It understands me. Because we both know to get here, I had to lose everything that made me soft. Everything that made me question. Everything that made me beg. Now, I walk without need, without noise, without apology. Let them call it cold. Let them call it cruel. Let them call it heartless. They'll never understand. That cold is the only reason I survived. Peace didn't save me. It sharpened me. It turned me into what I was always meant to become. Silent, unshaken, unbreakable. And finally, free. They warned me, told me I'd regret it, said the silence would eat me alive. That solitude would be my sentence, that no one survives the cold. But I didn't just survive it. I became it. Alone, no. I was always alone, even when I sat at their tables, even when I laughed at their jokes, even when I bled to make them comfortable. I was always alone. The only difference now, I don't pretend anymore. I walk without the need for footsteps beside me. I breathe without asking if I'm too much. I move without waiting for permission. They used to say I needed them, that I'd never make it on my own, that I was lucky just to be tolerated. But now I walk through storms they pray to avoid. Now I sit with shadows they're too afraid to face. Now I find peace in the parts of me they tried to burn. Because here's the truth they'll never speak. Solitude isn't loneliness. It's a throne. And I don't share thrones. They called me selfish for choosing myself, cold for pulling away, cruel for going quiet. But let me be clear. I'd rather be called cruel than be kept in chains. I'd rather be feared than forgotten. I'd rather be alone than ever shrink to fit into their comfort again. When you walk alone, you hear your own footsteps, you hear the echo of your strength, the rhythm of your rage, the heartbeat they tried to silence. And eventually, you start to like it. The silence, the space, the stillness that roars louder than their opinions ever did. You stop needing company. You start demanding respect. You stop chasing hands. You start building empires they'll never understand, because they never stood where I stand now, with nothing to lose, nothing to prove, and everything to become. So let them talk. Let them whisper about the one who walked away. Let them curse the silence I left behind. Let them tremble at the power they failed to keep, because I walk alone now, and I like it. No wait, no leash, no lies, just me, and the fire they couldn't extinguish. Let them watch, let them wonder, let them wither. I'm not coming back. I don't need to, because forward is mine, and I walk it alone. By choice, by strength, by fire, and I'll never beg for company again. They try to come back, they always come back, like moths to the fire they once mocked, like shadows crawling toward the light they swore they didn't need. They come back not because they've changed, but because you have. They can feel it, the shift, the silence, the storm, and it terrifies them. They remember the version of you that begged, that bent, that broke. They remember the open hands, the desperate forgiveness, the quiet sacrifices you made just to keep the peace. But that version of you is dead, and in the ashes something cold arose. Now, they knock on doors they burned, speak softness from mouths that once screamed. Suddenly, they didn't mean it. Suddenly, you were right. Double quotes, no. They don't miss you. They miss control. They miss the power they had over your heart. They miss the version of you that cared enough to bleed. But you don't bleed for ghosts anymore. So, when they show up, with memories wrapped in guilt, when they try to dig up graves and call it closure, don't flinch. Don't open the door. They set on fire, because if they wanted to stay, they would have stayed. If they meant their words, they wouldn't need to repeat them now. And if they truly loved you, they never would have made you choose between their comfort and your worth. Let them knock. Let them wait. Let them rot. You've outgrown their grip. You've evolved past their apologies. And no, you're not bitter. You're aware. There's a difference. Awareness is power. And power doesn't beg. It doesn't answer old echoes. It doesn't pause for ghosts. So let them talk. Let them twist the story. Let them call you cold. Call you heartless. Call you distant. You are. Because distance saved you. Because coldness kept you warm. Because silence was the only language they never learned to respect. They try to come back, but you don't. Not to the pain. Not to the past. Not to them. You moved on. And now they finally see. You were never the weak one. You were the power they couldn't break. And now they want a piece of what they tried to destroy. But this time, you don't resurrect graves. You don't feed the ghosts. You bury them. And you walk away. Unshaken. Unreachable. Unapologetically gone. They'll say I changed. They'll whisper behind cracked smiles and say I lost my way. That I became distant. Cold. Cruel. Good. Let them talk. Let them spin their stories like cobwebs in the dark. Let them write myths to protect their guilt. Because I did change. I tore out the parts of me that kept bleeding for people who only watched. I stopped showing mercy to hands that never offered it. I became what they fear because I stopped needing their approval. You see, when you stop caring, you stop apologizing for surviving. You stop shrinking to fit into their fragile idea of you. They don't fear your darkness. They fear your light no longer asks for permission. I was the hero in their story, until I stopped saving them, until I stopped burning just to keep them warm. Now they call me the villain, because I told the truth, because I walked away, because I refused to be silent one more time. Isn't it funny? How quickly they forget the nights you cried for them, the times you broke yourself to keep their world whole. Now you're heartless, now you're dangerous. Good. Let them hate. Let them twist your name in their mouths like poison. Let them flinch When they hear your footsteps, you owe them nothing. Their version of you was always built on control, on tameness, on silence. But you were never made to kneel. You were made to rise. So rise, not as their friend, not as their savior, but as the storm they never saw coming. Be the villain in their story, because they were never worthy of being in yours. And when they beg for the old you, when they reach for the ashes, when they cry, you've changed. Look them in the eye and whisper, I was never yours to keep. Let them remember you as the shadow that walked away and never looked back. They told you to stay small. To be quiet, to be grateful. Grateful for crumbs, grateful for scraps, grateful for being tolerated, not seen, not heard, not honored. And you were. For a while, you bent, you bowed, you broke your back trying to be enough, but not anymore. Because one day, the mirror didn't reflect their lies. It reflected you, raw, bleeding, unfiltered. And you didn't look away. You saw the cracks, you saw the ruin, and still, you stood. You didn't climb for applause. You didn't fight for love. You rose because it was the only thing left. And now you rise again, not with softness, not with apologies stitched into your breath, but with thunder behind your silence. You rise without asking for permission, without explaining your scars, without lowering your voice so fragile hearts can stay comfortable. You rise, and you don't look back, not for the ones who left, not for the ones who laughed, not for the ones who only loved the version of you that bled on command. You rise, and you bring the fire with you. You burn the bridges they forced you to crawl across. You shatter the cages they praised you for surviving. You erase the names they carved into your ribs like brands. No more mercy. No more shrinking. No more playing savior to people who'd watch you drown. Let them speak. Let them spin their stories. Let them paint you cruel, cold, changed. They don't know what it cost. They don't know what it took to stand on bones you once called your own. You are not their redemption arc. You are not their lesson. You are not their damn apology. You owe them nothing. Not your softness, not your time, not your name. So when they come crawling with open arms and closed hearts, let silence greet them. Let distance answer. Because you're done bleeding for people who bring knives to conversations. You rise, and you never apologize again. Not for your power, not for your rage, not for your healing, not for surviving in a world that wanted you silent. So rise. And let the world adjust. Because you are not who you were. You are who you became when you stopped begging to be understood. Let them choke on your name now, not because it's bitter, but because they were never meant to taste it. You rise, unforgiving, unapologetic, unstoppable. And that is enough.